Well, good morning, folks. Welcome back to the farm. I didn't intend to start today's video this way, but before I could hit the record button, I biffed around this ice, and here I am laying on the ground. I crushed my garbage can, bent the lighter. I will try and regain some traction and start the day as we meant to. Burning a little bit of garbage. So in the back of the side-by-side here, I've got I don't know, 50 cardboard boxes like this. My wife's 8 months pregnant and nesting, and said, well, we should just buy 1,500 square feet of laminate or vinyl plank flooring and just do our whole basement. So that was my entire day yesterday, pretty much, is reflooring the basement. So I got all these boxes. Some of these boxes I'm going to shred up and put in the chicken house as a source of carbon, soak up a little bit of chicken manure. But we got too many boxes to be able to do that, so we're gonna get them into there.
Do you want some? Come on. Do you want some?
So I'm just in the chicken house here now, looking at the deep litter and thinking it's time to get the fork in there and just aerate and turn. You can see actually I got some fresh material underneath, and it's just time to rotate this over and re-oxygenate everything that's in here to keep that decomposing, heating, good solid oxygen rich environment going in here. The reason why this is a priority, this morning I stepped in and it's like a little bit, you know, this starts to tell me what's happening here. And I don't want it to get to a point where it's like, take my breath away. But so that cardboard that I have from the flooring, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tear it up into some chunks. And as I roll this material over, I'll just fold some of that cardboard in as a carbon source. And that will help soak up any nasty bits and blend good and get a good carbon to nitrogen balance. It's usually when you get too nitrogen rich or maybe a little bit too moist that this starts to tell you things. So I've got all my existing material stirred up and turned over, just like basically plowing a field, right? And I just use, a 3-tine pitchfork that I usually use for feeding hay, and that works really good to get in there, break up that material. A garden digging fork would work very well for this. Manure fork, quite often doesn't work very well, but just because there's too many tines, you can kind of get bound up in there. It's not really good for turning. It's really good for if you can get underneath of the material and then use it to stack. That works great. But if you're just looking to roll it over, a 3-tine or a 4-tine fork works pretty awesome. As you can see, I've already torn up one box and tossed it in there, and I've got about 6 more, something like that I'm going to tear up and then roll into here. That'll help to suck up that moisture, help to suck up in a bunch of nitrogen, and then it's just going to work amazing. And so reduce the waste, reduce the amount of garbage that we're burning, and help to accelerate the decomposition, composting process. This stuff works amazing in the garden. Let me tell you, not just the cardboard, but the chicken deep litter method. When I take this out once a year in the spring, take this out to the garden, it's already heated, it's already aged very well, and I can use this as a mulch layer in between my rows. And because it's a little nitrogen hot, works really good to keep the weeds down, and also the nutrients that do leach out into the rows beside, they do very, very well. Once I get done feeding animals here, I just fork some hay over the horses here. Once I get done feeding, I got to take some barbed wire and the fence stretchers over to the sheep pen beside the shop. You'll recall from the other day, I had to do some amendments to the fence over here. Well, I had to do the same thing over here now because that snow we had lifted up, and now the sheep can jump over or put an unusual amount of pressure on the top line of that fence. And so the last couple of days, the ram's been jumping over. He's bigger than everybody else. That makes sense. But that's becoming a learned behavior for the other ones, and I have to address it because this morning it was just a gong show. I had 3 of them out to get them back in. Once they go over, they don't want to go back over the other way. They want to go through. And that's really, really hard on page wire. So I got everybody where they're supposed to be now. I got a roll of barbed wire, some fence stretchers, some staples, all that jazz. So I'm gonna feed these lambs here and then get that fence done, because that's a headache I just don't need today. So this is the section of fence here I'm talking about. You can see I got some some wooden rails along the top of the page wire to discourage any kind of activity. Really, is to discourage them from putting forward pressure on the page wire. But it's now they've just learned, instead of putting pressure, now they just jump, right? And then you get over to here. The problem is this being the feeding ground and this being the height of the fence, over time, them compacting and trampling on, waste hay has really led to this becoming almost equal to the height of the page wire fence. So I'm going to string a couple strands of barbed wire up here, pretty much right to the top of the fence, and hopefully that's sufficient for deterrent. So we got my fence patch done here. 2 rows of barbed wire on top of the plank. So hopefully, when a sheep's staring at that, it's enough discouragement not to jump over. Now over on that side, where the edge of the bedding ground is, you can see I put up a 5 foot tall by 10 feet wide security panel. I'm not really thinking that they're going to want to go there. I think instinct is going to take them from here to that hay bale, right? Boom, boom. But now that I've done this, maybe they're smart. Maybe they're smart and they can figure out, well, if I just go around that way and come around, I can get back to the same hay bale. So that's just there. It won't provide much of a physical barrier. I just zip tied it up, but hopefully provides enough of a visual barrier to discourage them. And then when you get to the next row, the waste hay and packed snow has dropped off, and so they'd really have to work to jump over the fence there. So you, Edith, and you, Todd, and Oosby, better stay here, or you'll be on my list. Nobody wants to be on my list. Usually ends in sage and white pepper. Anyhow, seeing as this is probably the last nice day we're gonna have for a while, it's forecasted to snow a whole bunch and get really, really cold again tomorrow. We're gonna take advantage of it being that last day and head out, take Charlotte tubing down at Nighthawk. So it's gonna be a grand afternoon here. Back now from tubing, and I'm just wrapping up evening chores here. In fact, yeah, we spent the afternoon sliding on the ice on our ass on purpose, unlike this morning, but fared out pretty well. It was a beautiful afternoon. The wind right now is blowing out of the northeast and it's picked up, and it's dropped about 12 degrees here in the last 40 minutes. So we're in for a real treat in the morning, I'm sure. But I'm gonna wash about 50 eggs here and then run inside, fix up a cup of tea, and probably tuck myself into bed. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.